I'm totally illiterate. Philosophy is easy. Anyone could do it.
Totally illiterate.
Hello, zoo citizens. So on this channel, I talk a lot about noticing patterns in Derridian argumentation. I'm going to just outline very quickly for you, not really try to persuade you, maybe a little bit, but mostly just try to give you these argumentative axioms to recognize to assist you to read deconstructive arguments. It really helps to know what sort of argumentative avenues are in principle open for Derrida. If you're struggling to imagine what he's saying, you can rule out quite a bit if you get a handle on just these 5 sort of rules. So number 1 is Western metaphysics, Plato to NATO. The conceptual infrastructure of Western metaphysics is remarkably consistent and unified across social contexts and cultures, despite so much historical change, so much supposedly different periods. We are all speaking Greek, whether we know it or not. That doesn't mean that nothing's changed. It just means that the starting point of deconstructive argumentation generally is the profound continuity and the remarkable perdurance of Platonism. So number 2, nothing new. New starts are always tacit repetitions. To be is to inherit. There's no pure origin. So implication is you can't just reject Western metaphysics or really anything else. Rejection or breaking with is not a deconstructive gesture. It has no sense for Derrida. The moment you reject something or try to break with something, you're marked by that break, and thus you haven't broken with it. So just because, though, you always have to inherit, say, this or that bad thing you don't like, doesn't mean you always have to inherit in the same way. You want to try to inherit in the best way possible, but not inheriting or having some sort of new start, that's not an option. So the third axiom is that relativism doesn't exist. Deconstruction is not relativist in any way, shape, or form. Relativism is a joke. Truth qua truth is never relative, and relativism is itself another philosophical position. So deconstruction is a rationalism. It is pro-reason. Derrida's defense of democracy is universalist and unconditional, as strange as that may sound given the reception of so-called postmodernism and post-structuralism. You don't need to bother with any of these claims that, oh, Derrida thinks that truth, etc., depends on your identity or your, where you're from or how you grew up, or it's all contingent. So that's all. That kind of thinking is completely alien to deconstructive argumentation. Causality does not function that simply. The historicity of truth claims is never that easy to unpack or that simple. Rule number 4 is sort of just rule number 2 again, but it bears repeating. Deconstructing something does not mean rejecting it. Deconstruction doesn't mean rejecting. One inherits what one deconstructs differently. Many categories, concepts, and words that are deconstructed are not thereby given up on. This is confusing for people because Derrida will spend like 80 pages deconstructing truth in Plato and then say, of course we can't give up on truth, and we can't. You don't get anywhere by rejecting truth. The key point is that deconstruction is not simply critique and it's not rejection. It's a way of reading and inheriting better. The deconstruction of truth is necessarily truer than truth. So you cannot argue against deconstruction from a position of truth. You're already outflanked in that context. And finally, language has baggage. So it's very important to understand deconstruction is not a language game or primarily a thinking of language. This is a common misunderstanding. But deconstruction does accord importance to language and linguistic questions in specific and important ways. One of them is that language thinks, that sometimes one can separate words and phrases from the concepts they're designating. Oh, that's not what I meant, so just put what I said away. But one always has to explain why one had to recourse in the first place to words that one wants to wash one's hands of. Otherwise, it becomes a lot harder. For example, in the Austin Searle sort of fiascos, this question of like performatives failing being parasitic or infelicitous or corrupt. These sorts of moral valences are there and function even if you are saying, no, I'm just a theorist. I'm just theorizing performatives. I'm making no moral judgments at all. So hope that little NFL blitz of deconstructive rules helps you. Yep, thanks.
Pretty stupid, Davis. Pretty goddamn stupid.